Why have we come to earth? Do you remember? Why have we taken birth? Do you remember?
Good morning again. You know, it's a deep talk when you got this many books up here with you. So this morning we're starting off on an adventure. We're starting off on a year-long exploration, theme, process, engagement with ourselves and the world called Creating a World That Works for All. The Global Heart vision that Damien read was brought into being probably 10, maybe even 15 years ago by a group of religious science ministers, practitioners, and lay leaders that said, you know, if we were to take this philosophy and create a world that worked out of this philosophy, what would it look like? Can we at least just have a vision? Because we hear visions of the Hunger Project, which sounds like, you know, what's the emphasis on that? Hunger, you know, and the war against whatever it is, terrorism, drugs, poverty, blah, which is the war on poverty, drugs, terror. What would the vision, using our positive terminology, using our idea of creating an image in our mind, what would that begin to look like? And so that was the question they began to explore and hold. And this vision has been kind of bubbling below the surface in this organization for a long time. And this past year, Dr. Ken Gordon and Dr. Edward Viljoen, I know Ken's been here before, and Dr. Edwards, the minister over in just over the hill in Santa Rosa, got together and said, wouldn't it be great if we as an organization started to actually talk about this from the pulpit? If we could get some religious science churches to collectively work on this idea as a theme. Wouldn't that be a great idea? Because they understood the power of collective consciousness, where a bunch of people coming together, working on an idea in consciousness, are a powerful, powerful force to be reckoned with. Okay? A minister friend of mine posted a couple of days ago on the minister's listserv that she remembers having a conversation with Reverend Edward last August, and she said, how many churches do you have ready to do this? And he said, 3. Today, this morning, there's well over, probably close to 125 churches, religious science churches throughout the world, who are talking about this same theme today and will be for the year. What that means is you and I are aligned with literally thousands of people around the globe working on the consciousness of this theme. So I want you to get how personal this is. And it sounds big, doesn't it? A world that works for all. That sounds like kind of, you know, from where we are standing right now, pretty big vision, right? Like, what does that look like exactly, David? We're going to talk about that in a minute. But what I want to say is, yes, it's big, but if we don't start on it somewhere, if we just sit there and say, oh, that's too big, let's not do anything about it, then we make no progress whatsoever. I remember when I was in 8th grade, Sister Mary Stephen James, my 8th grade teacher, told me that if you want to throw a rock and hit a wall that's a ways away, you want to aim above the wall. Because if you aim at the wall, it'll fall short. So what we're doing is we're aiming above the wall. And maybe we won't quite make it to the moon that we're aiming at up here, but maybe we'll make it farther down the road than we've ever been before. Wouldn't that be a great thing? You know, they say that we only use 10% of our brain. I understand that scientifically that's kind of disproved, but I will say we probably only use 10% at the most of our consciousness. What would happen if we used 11%? If we just increased our lives by 10%? Across the board, everything in your life increases by 10%. What would that look like? Would you be pretty happy about that? If you got to 12% and everything in your life increased by 20%, would you be pretty happy with that? Okay, so that's what we're aiming at. I don't know if we're going to make, a huge difference or what difference. I know we're going to make a difference. So this is, although it was created in a couple of years ago, this is not a new idea. Ernest Holmes, in the What We Believe, which we've had in the bulletins for a long time, one of the points in What We Believe that he came up with in 1927 is that we believe the ultimate goal of life to be a complete emancipation from all discord of every nature, and that this goal is sure to be achieved by all. I like that last part. It's not just that this is a goal. He's sure that it is to be achieved by all. We're all going to get there. The thing is that we've been kind of waiting and putting it off and letting somebody else do it. The question is, am I going to get there now or later? If I had a beautiful piece of chocolate to offer you, would you rather have it now or later? Thinking for those of you who are chocolate allergic. Okay? If we had our good to offer, do we want it now or do we want it later? So this is a vision. This is a vision that we're dealing with, and it's different than a goal. A goal is something that's measurable. A goal is, I want to, by the end of this year, weigh X amount of pounds, or be able to run a marathon, or make this much money, or have a new car or a new house, or something like that. It's something that's measurable, and oftentimes has a clear-cut path, or a pretty good idea path that you're going to take. If I want to run, say, a half marathon by October, I start to work my way back. I need to do this kind of training and eat this kind of food and learn these sorts of things, and I can kind of draw out a path for it. That's a goal. But this isn't a goal. This is a vision. And a vision, we get a sense. We get an idea of the end that's desired. But it also requires faith that it can happen. Because we don't necessarily see the clear-cut, it's going to look exactly like this end in mind. See, when we do visioning for the Center for Spiritual Living, we oftentimes get things like, we are a beacon of light, okay? That doesn't mean we're going to build a big light beacon up on the top of the roof here, okay? That's not what that means. But we are a beacon of light in consciousness, or we are a place of love and community in consciousness. What does that look like? What does that feel like? And so are we willing to work with that idea of the vision? And the path is usually unknown. And by the way, that's why the doer consciousness in our mind doesn't like visioning. I try and get people to do visioning, and they come in and go, okay, we vision, now what are we going to do? Got to do something, And visioning is about the beingness. Am I willing to just simply sit with this vision? Am I allowing it to gestate me? It to grow me? Rather than me try to figure out how to make it happen. Ernest, in the philosophy of Ernest Holmes, says, I believe the divine pattern of perfection, not a plan, but a pattern, is resident in everything. Everything that has happened in evolution is but the unfoldment of that pattern. That pattern contains that which is beyond our present perception. What he's saying is that there is a natural pattern within us, that if we open up to it and allow it to move through us, will take us where we need to go. Even if we don't exactly know where that is, but the pattern is a pattern of spiritual perfection. The pattern is a pattern of divine love. So we're working with this, not to make something happen, but to allow it to happen through us. The vision doesn't have to be forced. It needs to be welcomed. Ernest goes on to say, there is that which must wait until slumber passes from our eyes and the inertia from our minds. There is that which this vision has to wait until the slumber falls from our eyes and the inertia, I don't have to do anything, okay, falls from our minds. I got mine, I'm good. Okay? When we start to move away from that, in Zen we constantly talk about the beginner's mind. Can I approach my life with a beginner's mind? Can I approach my life with a beginner's mind? In Zen it says when you reach the top of the mountain, keep climbing. So there's this idea to approach things fresh every day, fresh every moment. Can I be here? Can I be here with this? This is the old Eckhart Tolle, can I be here now? We were joking over here a minute ago about, what if I'm supposed to be somewhere else now? But wherever I am is where I'm supposed to be right now. Otherwise, I wouldn't be there. So we have to consent to evolve. We have to consent. We have to say, yes, I am willing to evolve. Otherwise, we don't have free will. See, the universe isn't going to force us to evolve. We can hang out in this mess for as long as we want to hang out. I don't know about you, but there are some things that I'm tired of hanging out in the world. Okay? And we are the people who have a consciousness that says that we can open up and start to create a world that works for all. So this is not a call to go out there right away and do things. Okay? Not yet. It's also not a call to make others do certain things. If those people over there would just get it together. We've heard that, right? If you're watching the news, you hear a lot of that. If those damn Christians, if those damn Muslims, if those damn Republicans, if those damn Democrats, if those damn independents, if those people over there would just get it together, if those Southern Californians would just get it together, if the 49ers would just get it together, the Oregon Ducks would have just gotten it together. I had a bad night last night. What it is a call for us to be willing to evolve. For us, for each of us to say, yes, I am willing to evolve. I am willing to get past the slumber. You know, Michael Beckwith says we're all asleep. Some of us are sleeping a deep sleep. And we're bumping into each other and we're bumping into things and we're not even aware that we're asleep and we're thumping around in our sleep. Others of us are in a lighter sleep, a higher sleep, where we are beginning to become aware, first of all, of the very fact that we're asleep. Helps to know that you're asleep if you're asleep, right? When you're out working in the world. And he says, and we begin to become aware that we don't know what we're doing. But at least we're becoming awake to the fact that we're ignorant. That's an important distinction. If I don't know that I'm ignorant, you ever meet somebody who doesn't know they're ignorant but is? And they're very self-righteous about it? It's much better to say, I'm willing to question that. I'm willing to not be so certain about that. I'm willing to admit that I don't know everything. Okay? Are we willing to go there? Are we willing to evolve? And you know what? I have some bad news. Are you okay with bad news? This might be a little uncomfortable sometimes for you. This journey might become a little uncomfortable for us at times because we might be challenged on our beloved sacred cows in our own life, which I'm told make the best burgers. We may be called upon to let go of cherished patterns of avoidance. You know what they are. We may be called upon to wake up in areas where we'd rather remain asleep. Would you be willing to do that if it meant creating a world that works for all? So our first place of growth will involve looking at our shadow side. Our shadow side. Not their shadow side. Yours and mine. It's that place which keeps us stuck in old dysfunctional patterns. And I have to say this is sometimes considered forbidden territory in religious science because we're only supposed to look at the positive, right? We're supposed to be happy with everything all the time. It's all good. On one level, yes, it is all good. But on the level of are we looking at our fellow human beings and trying to create something better and support them in creating something better so we can all thrive? It's not all good right now, is it? So we have to look at the shadow side because it's like trying to run down the road while you're tied to a ball and chain, not realizing that you're tied to a ball and chain. And wouldn't it be better if you took a look back and noticed that you've got this ball and chain tied to you so you can get free of it? Or driving down the road with a parking brake on. Wouldn't it be better if somebody said, hey, by the way, your parking brake is on? And so that's it. We're going to take a look at where we individually are driving down the road of our lives with our parking brake on. Now, when we talk about a life that works for all, it's not just them, they out there, it's also our own individual life. Would you be willing to have a life that works better for you? Okay? Would you be willing to have a spiritual center that works better for all of us? Okay? No matter how good it is, it can work better. So what we'll need is next week we're going to start with a process of releasing some weight. I'm going to give you a week to kind of sink all this in. Next week we're going to start with a process of releasing some of those weights. And it might be uncomfortable at first, but it is designed to help us get free from some long-held patterns. We're going to be working from the book Creating a World That Works for All by Sharif Abdullah. I know I've talked about this, Reverend Mary has talked about this before. It's a powerful and wonderful book. It's a book that actually starts to help make sense of the world and how we can actually really truly create a world that works for all. It starts to give some meat on the bones of this vision. I want to quote from the book. Sharif Abdullah says, "Our present world works for only a few. However, by shifting our consciousness, then our culture and institutions, we can create a world that works for all." Now, what was the first thing we're going to shift? Our consciousness. And then we go out. Some of you may remember the story we told last week or the week before about the people in the old town who were trying to get to the new town, and some of them are sharpening their swords and sharpening their swords and sharpening their swords and sharpening their swords some more. And when somebody suggests they actually use their swords to hack their way to a new path or cut their way through a new path, say, why? We're not ready yet. We're still sharpening our swords. And then on the other side of town, there's a group of people who are just practically by hand and with broken, rusted old tools, hacking their way through the path, trying to get to the new town, but it's hard going. And it's a complete, constant battle. And when somebody suggests they might take the time to sharpen their swords, they say, why? What good is that going to do? And besides, we don't have time. We got to do it now. And the sword in the story was our heart. Because the process that's going to work in this changing the new world is the process of compassion. If you want to know how to change the world, we change our own world into a world of compassion. Where I can have compassion, we can have compassion for all of us. Yeah, even that person. Okay? And so that's what we're doing with this. So we're working from that book. We'll be starting with changing our consciousness and then looking at ways how we can move our consciousness, our changed consciousness out. And why should we? Why should we? As religious scientists, we could just simply say it's enough to just shift our consciousness, and why go out into the world? Why bother? We'll just shift our consciousness. I'm good. I've got enough. My life works. Okay. Ernest says, I love this quote, "We live unto others." This is a complex quote, so work with me on this. We live unto others. We live unto others because that which is myself is yourself. That which is yourself is myself. That which is ourself collectively and ourselves individually is the one and only self there is. There is no other self. What I'm doing is creating a world that works for the self that is the only self there is, of which I am one. So I'm creating a world that works for myself, but it's a larger self than just this physical body and my little, things around in my life. Because we are all connected. We are all one. As I point my finger out at somebody else and say, that person is really messed up, the old saying is, I've got three more pointed back at me saying, I'm really messed up. Pretty much in the same way. And so are we willing to start to look at the whole self, the complete self, and work to improve that? That is the mission of religious science. That actually comes out of the Holmes papers, the philosophy of Ernest Holmes. I have a very old version of it, but the new one is contained within this book, which is in the bookstore. And it's called Our Mission to the World. Our Mission to the World. Back in 1948, when I think he delivered this talk, he's looking at our mission to the world. It's not just get your life together and you're good. It's what is our mission as a movement, as a teaching to the world. How can we make this world a better place? He's working on that back then. So this week, what I want to invite you to do 3 things as usual. Number 1, just be more awake. Pay attention. Just be aware. Be aware of your own stuff. Be aware of your own thoughts and feelings. Just be awake. And be willing. Be a place that says, I'm just willing to be a place that begins to create a world that works for everyone. I'm willing to be a place where that vision starts to birth through me. I may have no idea how to do that yet, but I'm willing. That's all I ask, is our willingness. Second, ask, how can I make the world a little better today? What if every one of us got up in the morning and said, with that was our first question, how can I make the world? How can I make my home? How can I make my workplace? How can I make my neighborhood? How can I make anything, wherever the streets of this town as I drive through it, my church, whatever it is, how can I make this place a little better today? And number 3, take an action. Do something with that. Do something with that. So be more awake. How can I make this world better today? And take an action. Are we willing to do that this week? Great. I want to close with more of a reading than a quote, and then a prayer from Ernest Holmes. This is from Ernest. He says, we love each other. By the way, I should mention that when he's delivering this talk, he's at the last day. It's been a 4-day kind of retreat that one of the churches has done together. He says, we love each other. And I trust it shall be increasingly said that this is a group of people who love each other, who are at least making a bold effort to turn every negation into an affirmation, every denial into an acceptance, every no into a yes, every evil into a good, every lack, every want into an abundance. The universe imposes nothing upon us but a freedom so great, we tie the cords of that freedom around us in our ignorance and believe that it is imposed upon us. We shall come into the divine inheritance of that which the universe has bequeathed to us only on its own terms, not on ours. As a quick aside, Mary Morrissey in the Prosperity Plus class talks about a guy who goes into a bank, wants to cash a check. And he goes up to the teller window and he says, I'd like to cash this check. And she goes, fine, you have to sign the check and I'll give you the cash. And he says, I don't want to sign the check. She says, if I sign the check and give it to you, you've got this check that I've signed. And you could run away with it. She goes, well, sir, I work for the bank, I'm bonded, this is the way we do things at the bank. And so he argues with her, and finally she says, I can't help you. So he goes down the street to the next bank, has the same conversation with another teller. Finally goes down to the street to a third bank, has the same conversation with another teller. And that teller finally gets fed up with the guy, reaches underneath her desk, picks out a rubber baseball bat, whacks the guy over the head with it, and says, sign the damn check. And he does. And he goes back to the first bank, and he says, I went down the street to the third bank, and they gave me the money. And the teller said, well, yeah, but I'll bet you still had to sign the check before they gave it to you. And he said, yeah, but nobody ever explained it to me the way they did. We shall come into the divine inheritance of that which the universe has bequeathed to us only on its own terms, not on ours. We shall do it not in exclusion, not by ourselves. We shall not do it in hate. We shall not do it through unloveliness. We shall not do it just through the intellect. We need the intellect, God knows, and we could use a lot more of it than we have. Ernest can be pretty funny when he wants to be. But there is another person inside us that we shall have to get together with. There is no God you and I will ever meet outside that thing which is in us now, as the immediate person that we are, the divine presence we seek to embody. We are the children of that light. God is real, personal to you and to me, to be communed with. Speak to him then, for he hears, and spirit with spirit shall meet. Closer is he than breathing. We shall have to speak to him in each other, and embrace him in each other, and love him in each other, that the eternal may go forth through us anew into its own creation. That's the inspiration that I invite you to take with you this week. See the God, meet the God within yourself, meet the God within the other person. And the ones that are the most challenging to meet or see God in are the ones we really have to say, I'm willing to see God there. I'm going to close with his closing prayer from that particular talk, that particular meeting. Now let us turn deep, deep within to your God and my God, to our Father in our heaven, that infinite and ineffable beauty that paints the rose, spreads its glory across the hilltops as the sun rises to bathe the valley in warmth and color and radiance of a new day. Soft twilight shadows in the rose at hues of evening, and the song of the lark and laughter of children and peace of the night, eternal and forever blessed. We are that which thou art, and thou art that which we are. Amen. Thank you.
To love, serve.